Hey there, books, you welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to continue our read aloud read along of Maya Angelou's memoir, Gathered Together in My Name. We've been reading together chapters of this book. We also read before the first memoir, which is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. So if you'd like to start with her first memoir, or if you'd like to start with previous chapters, you can click the links in the description box down below. All of those videos are going to be linked down there. But we're now up to chapter 9, which in this edition of the book starts on page 37. So if you have a copy of the book, you can read along with me. Otherwise, you could just listen to me read. I'm going to get started with chapter 9. It starts on page 37, and it goes like this. Are you in the life? The big black woman could have been speaking Russian. She sat with her back to the window, and the sunlight slid over her shoulders, making a pool in her lap. I beg pardon? The life. You turn tricks? The maid at the hotel had given me the woman's address and said she took care of children. Just ask for Mother Cleo. She hadn't asked me to sit, so I just stood in the center of the cluttered room, the baby resting on my shoulder. No, I do not. How could she ask me such a question? Well, you surely look like a trickster, your face and everything. Well, I assure you, I'm not a whore. I have worked as a chef. How the lowly have become mighty. Old Creole Kitchen would hitch up its shoulders to know that it once had had a chef, not just a garden variety cook. Well, she looked at me as if she'd soon be able to tell if I was lying. How come you got so much powder and lipstick? That morning, I had bought a complete cosmetic kit and spent over an hour pasting my face into a mask with Max Factor's Pancake number 31. I didn't really feel I had to explain to Mother Cleo, but on the other hand, I couldn't very well be rude. I did need a babysitter. Maybe I put on too much. Where do you work? It was an interrogation. She had her nerve. Did she think that being called Mother Cleo gave her maternal privileges? The High Hat Club needs a waitress. I'm going to apply. The makeup was supposed to make me look older. Maybe it only succeeded in making me look cheap. That's a good job. Tips can make it a real good job. Let me see the baby. She got up with more ease than I had expected. When she stretched out her hands, a cloud of talcum powder was released. She took the baby and adjusted him down in the crook of her arm. He's pretty. Still sleeping, huh? Mother Cleo metamorphosed in front of me. She was no longer the fat, ugly ogre who threatened from her deep chair. Looking down on the infant, she had become the prototype of mother. Her face softened and her voice blurred. She ran stubbly fat fingers around his cap and slid it off. I don't usually take them this young. Too much trouble. But he's cute as can be, ain't he? Well, you know, don't do for you to say so, but still, it's true. And you're almost too young to have a baby. I guess your folks put you out, huh? She had noticed I wore no wedding ring. I decided to let her think I was homeless. Then I thought, let her think nothing. I was homeless. Well, I'm going to give you a hand. I'll keep him and I'm going to charge you less than the white ones. I was shocked that she kept white babies. Lots of white women trust their babies with me rather than their own mothers. There are a lot of them from the South, and they like the idea that they still got a mammy for their children. Can't you just see them? Snotty-nosed little things growing up talking about, I had a colored mammy, huh? She uglied her face with wrinkles. But I naturally like children, and I make their mamas pay. They pay me good. Don't care how much I like the young ones. They don't pay, they have to go. I agreed to her terms and paid her for the first week. Before I left, the baby struggled awake in her arms. She began a rocking motion which didn't lull him. His large black eyes took in the strange face, and he began to look around for me. A small cry found its way to the surface before I came into his vision. Once he had assured himself that indeed I was there, he hollered in earnest, angry that I had allowed him to be held by this unknown person, and maybe even a little afraid that I'd given him away. I moved to take him. Let him cry. Mother Cleo increased her rocking and bouncing. He got to get used to it. Just let me hold him a second. I couldn't bear his loneliness. I took his softness and kissed him and patted his back, and he quieted immediately, as a downpour of rain cuts off. "You too soft. They all do that till they get used to me." She stood near me and held out her arms. "Give him to me and you go on and get your job. I'll feed him. You bring diapers?" I nodded to the bag I had dropped beside the door. "Hush, baby, hush, baby, hush, baby, hush." She had started to croon. I handed the baby to her, and right away he began to cry. "Go on, he'll be all right." He yelled louder, splitting the air with screams. She contrived a wordless song. His screams were lightning, piercing the dark cloud of her music. I closed the door. That's the end of chapter 9, which was pretty short, so we'll move on to chapter 10 because I want to see how this goes. Chapter 10. The nightclub sat on the corner, a one-story building whose purple stucco facade was sprinkled with glitter dust. Inside the dark square room, a bar dimly curved its way from the door to a small dance floor in the rear. Minuscule round tables and chairs jammed against one another, and red bulbs shone down, intensifying the gloom. The hi-hat club had almost too much atmosphere. Music blared and trembled, competing with the customers' voices for domination of the air. Neither won, except that for a few seconds during the lull between records, the jukebox sat quiet up against the wall, its green and red and yellow lights flickering like an evil robot from a Flash Gordon film. The customers came mostly from the underworld, though there was a scattering of young sailors among them. They all jockeyed and shifted, lifting glasses and voices in the thick air, which smelled of Lysol and perfume and bodies and cigarettes and stale beer. The women were mistresses of decorum. They sat primly at the bar, skirts tucked in, voices quick or silent altogether. On the street, they had been as ageless as their profession. But near the posturing, flattering men, they became modest girls, kittens purring under the strokes. I watched them and understood. I saw them and envied. They had men of their own. Of course, they bought them. They laid open their bodies and threw away their dignity upon a heap of cum-filled rubbers. But they had men. In the late evenings, boosters and thieves wove their paths among the night people, trading, bartering, making contacts, and taking orders. Got 2 Ruse Brothers suits, 38, black, pinstripe, and brown. Tag says $190. They're both yours for an ace 50. Gelman shoes, eye magnin dresses. Your woman will catch if she wear these threads. For you, 4 dresses for a deuce. Depending on the evening's take and the sweet man's mood, the thieves were given money by the pimps, which had been given them by the girls, which they had saved by lying down first and getting up last. The waitresses in a block were the least interesting of the club's inhabitants. They were, for the most part, dull married women who moved among the colorful patrons like slugs among butterflies. The men showed no interest in them, leading me to believe that virtue is safest in a den of iniquity. I was younger, but no more interesting than my colleagues, so the pretty men lumped me with them and ignored us all. I had no chance to show them how clever I was because wit is communicated by language and I hadn't yet learned theirs. I understood their lack of interest to imply that smart women were prostitutes and stupid ones were waitresses. There were no other categories. I worked cleaning ashtrays, serving drinks, and listening for over a month. My tips were good because I was fast and had a good memory. Scotch and milk for you, sir? That's right, little girl, you got a good memory. Though he never saw me, he'd leave a $1 tip. My first week in San Diego, Mother Cleo had told me she had a room for rent. I see you a good girl coming over here to see your baby every day and all. So my husband and me, we're ready to let you live here with us. Room will be $15 a week. Got a new bedroom suite in it, and if you put a rubber sheet on the bed, your baby can sleep with you. So I became a roomer in the home of Mr. Henry and Mrs. Cleo Jenkins. My life began to move at a measured tempo. I found a modern dance studio where a long-haired white woman gave classes to a motley crew of Navy wives. I went to work at 6, 5:30 to set up tables, get change, arrange my tray with napkins and matches, and was off at 2. I shared a ride with a waitress whose husband picked her up every night. I slept late, woke to fix my breakfast around noon and play with my baby. He amused me. I could not and did not consider him a person, a real person. He was my baby, rather like a pretty living doll that belonged to me. I was myself too young and unformed a human being to think of him as a human being. I loved him. He was cute. He laughed a lot and gurgled, and he was mine. That's the end of chapter 10. We'll be back next time for chapter 11. I hope you'll join me for the next in the series of this read aloud, read along of Maya Angelou's memoirs. This is the second memoir, Gathered Together in My Name. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you want to see more. And let's talk in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on her memoir. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the book. So we'll talk down there. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.